want you all to imagine that I am Batman. I'm not going to do the Batman voice, don't get too excited, but imagine that I am Batman. Specifically the Christian Bale Batman from Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises. I'm up here on the big screen, and you're in your seats at the movie theater. You've waited weeks to finally see this movie. It's about 20 minutes in. The big scene with the Batmobile car chase on a major highway. At this point in the film, a man enters the theater through an emergency exit door on the right-hand side. Most of you don't notice him. He's wearing all black. He has on him a Remington 12-gauge shotgun, a semi-automatic rifle, and a .22 Glock handgun, all of which he fires into the crowd after opening 2 canisters of tear gas. It's July 12th, 2012, and we are in Cinemark Theater number 9 in the city of Aurora, Colorado. The man who just killed 12 of you is named James Egan Holmes. He's now exiting the theater back into the parking lot, where he'll be apprehended by police in approximately 7 minutes. In our country, a mass shooting is considered to be when a lone gunman kills 3 or more individuals. James Egan Holmes was not the first, and he was not the last. April 20th, 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Claybold executed 12 students in the library of Columbine High School before killing themselves in Littleton, Colorado. March 21st, 2005, 16-year-old Jeff Wise shot and killed 5 students, a teacher, and a security guard at Red Lake High School in Minnesota before killing himself in a vacant classroom. April 17th, 2007, 23-year-old Sang Hung Cho killed 32 people on Virginia Tech's campus before killing himself, the deadliest attack by a lone gunman in history to date. December 14th, 2012, 20-year-old Adam Lanza executed 20 children between the ages of 6 and 7, as well as 6 adults, in the kindergarten classrooms of Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut, before committing suicide. May 23rd, 2014, 22-year-old Elliot Roger killed 6 people and injured 14 others on and around the campus of UC Santa Barbara before killing himself in the city of Isla Vista, California. I'd be willing to bet that pretty much everyone in this room remembers almost every single one of those incidents. And that's because as a country, we are fascinated by mass shootings. These incidents get hours and days and weeks worth of coverage, and we can't seem to take our eyes off the screen. And the reason that we are so fascinated is because we cannot understand. We cannot understand how you could indiscriminately kill innocent people. Now, gang violence, murdering an adulterous spouse, even terrorism, we can wrap our minds around how someone could possibly justify that to themselves. But going into a room and killing a bunch of kindergartners, we can't understand that. However, there are some things that we do understand about these shooters. After researching them and studying them, we've learned that they fit a certain criminological profile. And that profile is called the pseudo-commando. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. In 2010, in the wake of many of these shootings, a man named Dr. James Knoll published an article in the Journal of Academic American Psychiatric Law talking about the pseudo-commando. Pseudo-commando is a type of killer. He kills indiscriminately in a public space. He deliberates and plans for long periods of time beforehand. He comes heavily prepared with an arsenal of weapons and tactical gear. But for all of that preparation, he has no escape plan. He expects to be killed, to be arrested, or to kill himself. He has no way out. Columbine, Virginia Tech, Aurora, Newtown, all of those shooters fit the bill. But what's interesting, and where I think we're going to get to some real answers, is that this shooter fits a certain psychological profile as well. The pseudo-commando is consumed with anger and resentment and feelings of persecution. He is highly narcissistic and extremely paranoid. You see, in their minds, they have been wronged. They are the victim, not the people that they kill. And as many of you probably remember from these incidents, they are often outcasts. Adam Lanza, Sang-Hung Cho, Elliot Rodger, they could not fit in with their peers. They felt alienated and very jealous, and because of that, they were filled with resentment. And you see, what happens is, these feelings grow and grow over time, until eventually the pseudo-commando retreats into this fantasy world of violence and revenge and nihilism. They play the rampage over and over again in their minds, until finally, one day, they make it a reality. Now this is where I think we get to the real problem. And the problem is a media problem. The pseudo-commando is counting on media coverage. He depends on these news outlets. Now think about it. His motivation is not about any individual or group of individuals that he kills. He's attacking society. He wants to get revenge on the community from which he feels ostracized. It's about retribution. His purpose is to make sure that everyone feels affected by what he did. And the media is an integral part of the grand finale of their fantasies. But what about this? What if we didn't buy in? What if the media decided not to cover these incidents they wanted them to be covered? What if they didn't play into their fantasies? Dr. Knoll recommended in that article that the media have a set of formalized guidelines for how to cover these stories. What if, instead of spending hours talking about the twisted mind of Adam Lanza, what if we spent that time talking about the victims? What if we talked about the way the community responds to these incidents? You can bet that every mass shooter has at least heard about, if not meticulously studied, the mass shooters before him. If we talk about their methods, we're just giving the next pseudo-commando more ideas. If we talk about how many people they killed, we're just giving the next pseudo-commando a number to beat. And that is why the United States government needs to set the agenda for how the media covers these stories. The executive branch, the Federal Communications Division, they need to lead the way in minimizing these incidents. And this is not a crazy idea. There is already precedence for this. Let me ask you guys this. How many of you remember the names of the two men who flew the planes into the Twin Towers on 9/11? Probably none of you, because the media decided not to report their names, not to glorify the perpetrators. They talked about the community of New York City and the victims, not the people who killed them. Let me ask you this. How many of you know the name of the Vanderbilt woman whose rapists were convicted a few months ago? Probably none of you unless you knew her personally, because the media decides not to report the names of rape victims. There are rape shield laws in many states, but many media outlets do this independently. If they can do that to protect rape victims, they can do it to minimize the amount of mass shooting victims we have in the future. It's not just about gun control. It's not just about mental illness protocols. It's about using the information that we have about these shooters and using that to find meaningful solutions like this one. Jonathan Blunk, Matt McQuinn, and Alexander Teves were killed shielding their girlfriends from bullets in that theater in Aurora. Victoria Lee Soto was murdered by Adam Lanza, protecting the children in her classroom at Sandy Hook. Livia Labrescu was a Virginia Tech professor and an Israeli Holocaust survivor who was murdered by Sang-Hung Cho while barricading a classroom door as 11 of his students escaped to safety. These are the names that you should have heard at the beginning of my speech. These are the names that you should remember. Thank you.